Hi, I'm Brent Johnson.
I'm Andrew Schaeffer.
Today we have come to Dubuque, Iowa, right at the Illinois-Wisconsin border on the Iowa side of the Mississippi River. We are downtown at the former Catholic Church of St. Mary, now called Steeple Square. This building has been preserved, and the organ has been preserved, thankfully. Tell me about this instrument.
This is quite a rare instrument for the Midwest. This is an 1870 E&G hook organ. Hook built, you'll find quite a few Hook and Hastings organs in the Midwest, but E&G hook are quite rare from this time period. The only other one I know of this size is actually in Chicago at the former Scottish Rite Masonic Temple. Still there, although the Masons have moved out. This organ has been through quite a bit in its history, as most organs from the 1870s have been. This organ was electrified sometime in the 1960s. Then there was a fire in the building, on the other end of the building. Luckily, the organ was largely spared, though it did suffer quite a bit of smoke damage. So the organ was cleaned at that time. Sometime in the 80s, this console was put on, and we think somewhere in there some tonal changes were made. I would say 90% of the hook pipe work is still here, and we're going to go through the original spec and do some urban exploration, as it were, and we'll point out, though it may be obvious to many of you viewers, what some of the changes were done.
Okay, so mostly original, but we do have some modern electronics and modern console, and a few, like you said, a few new pipes I've seen in there. So let's just start. The grate is right here out in front of us.
Right.
Tell me let's start there.
I do want to make one disclaimer before we start, and that is that this organ is loved, it is appreciated, and the folks here want to do some work to it here in the future. But this organ went through a period where this church building was closed for about 3 years, so it deteriorated a little bit. You might notice the tuning is quite wonky in spots, so we're showing you this organ because it's a historic artifact, not because it's necessarily yet in pristine condition. So we'll start actually with the Great Division, and we have an 8-foot open diapason, which is original, and it's got this characteristic big woolly sound that I think is really kind of compelling. Still a bit of articulation.
It's still very clear.
It's right in back of the facade, but
I don't know if that's as clear all the way out there in this big space, but
quite a lovely sound. Moving up the chorus, and this does have a bona fide chorus, like a lot of those late 19th century hooks did. Here is the 4-foot octave. Smaller in scale than the 8. Together they make a really lovely sound. Yeah. We have, moving up, a 2 2/3 12th that is also original to the hook. Here's the 8 and 4. Bit of brilliance there. And then we have a 2-foot 15th, again original to the hook. And then a 3-rank mixture, again a hook mixture. That definitely needs a little bit of tuning, but we'll put it together, make quite a clang, I'm sure. Sounds French.
Almost. It's very bright and just a little noisy.
And out of tune.
But it's still bright and useful even in that state.
There's a trumpet that's actually, this was interesting when we first encountered this trumpet. We thought, oh, this is an addition, but then we went in and it just needs some TLC, but it's very bright and brassy, and which I have heard in a few hooks before, so it makes some sense.
We did arrive ahead of the tuners. Sadly,
yes.
They're coming in next week, so they'll fix.
Yeah,
all those
and
things,
it's hot today.
But still, it's a big bright sound for
it is
for 1870. Okay.
And an independent Claria. Put together.
Yeah, there's a lot of bite to that great division.
There is, and then there's an 8-foot stop diapason. I could play that stop all day. That's beautiful. That's really quite lovely. There was an 8-foot viol de gamba on the grate. Unfortunately, there is a 16-foot quint on that slide. I think our viewers can deduce this is not hook. For what it's worth, that's not a bad quintadina.
It's a nice sound, but yeah, that's definitely not a
but
1870s hook there. No.
So we're going to move to what was originally called the solo division, but we, in modern parlance, would refer to it as choir, and indeed it has been renamed choir on this Klon console. And we're going to start with an 8-foot Geigen diapason.
Almost stringy, more Geigen than diapason. Okay.
Then there is an 8-foot Dulciana, which I think is now the softest stop on this organ. Now that there was an Aeolian in the Swell that has since been taken out. There is now an Unda Marus with it. And that's an addition. Okay. The Unda Marus is the only undulant in the organ. There is no Celeste in the Swell. There is not now, nor was there originally. And that's pretty typical of that time period.
Okay.
So then we have an 8-foot Melodia, which is just as charming as can be. We're really struck by how bold and beautiful these flutes are. Here's the, going back to the grate.
That's almost bigger than the Geigen diapason.
It is.
In sound. Huh. Okay.
Then a 4-foot flute d'amore. Melodia.
Lovely.
Nothing wrong with that. And then we have an 8-foot oboe in the choir solo. This was originally in the Swell division.
Okay.
For some
That makes
reason,
sense.
we'll get to the Swell in a minute. But this should have been a clarinet.
Okay, yeah, very bright and thin. So there was a clarinet there originally in the hook.
Correct.
Okay.
So
just-
here's, I'll use a solo voice. I'll put the Melodia with it to give it a little bit more little body.
Works there.
Sure.
Clarinet would be nice too.
Clarinet would be nice. Hopefully one day reverse this and move the oboe back to the Swell. Speaking of the Swell,
Let's talk about the Swell.
I'll start with the reed there because they swapped out this oboe for a fagato, a contrafagato. Actually, that's not a bad 16-foot octave there. I take that. Not on this organ, but on some other organ. And then that's extended to 8. Kind of curious how that compares to the oboe in the choir. The fagato is actually quite more tame than the oboe.
Darker, but about the same volume level, really.
Yeah.
Okay.
But otherwise, we have the Swell division that Hook left us. We have an 8-foot open diapason. Here are the other 8-foot open diapasons, the Geigen. And the Great Open.
Say that Swell shares a lot with the Great,
Right.
more than the Geigen.
Gives
Makes
it the
sense.
Great a run for its money.
Yeah.
And then we have a 4-foot octave in the Swell. Having a little bit of speech issue, but put it with the 8.
And not quite as cutting a chorus as the Great is. Okay.
Then we have an 8-foot stop diapason. Compared to the Great, similar colors.
I was thinking the Swell is turning into a small Great here. We have some of these similar 8-foot colors in there. All right.
A 4-foot harmonic flute, which I think is the star of the organ.
How does that sound with the 8-foot deck then?
Almost loses a little bit of its sparkle because that deck is so So powerful.
Interesting.
We have a 2-foot flautino, which is original. It's almost like a principal, and I've seen this on some other 19th century organs. The steer I play at my Churchman's Memorial, which you've done a video on, has a 2-foot flautino that's chameleon. It's kind of a principal at times and a flute at times.
The organ I play has a 2-foot flautino in the Swell.
Yeah.
It's actually conical, so it's a stringy flute. You get Gemshorn sound actually at the base.
So here it is with the 8 and 4. Have a little bit.
There's something strange going on in the 2-foot there.
I think it might be part of the console.
I think so.
And then the pedal is unfortunately been pretty hacked up. There was originally a 16-foot open diapason. The pipes are still in the building. Hopefully one day they will be returned to their rightful place. There are knobs here that might indicate that for a 32-foot and an open diapason. But here is the original Borden. Sounds like a Borden. And then there was a violoncello, which is still here. And the rest are borrows from the other divisions. I will say there's also, I forgot one stop, and I think you'll forgive me for forgetting this one. It is a 4-foot Rohr flute in the grate that has been added, I believe, on the slide that the viola was on.
It's hard to say because those chests have been swapped out with electro-pneumatic, and there's actually a new chest that has...
That's right. The quint is on the old viola da gamba slide.
So this was actually just added to the organ. Maybe there was something they did take out to make that
Couldn't
space.
live without it. Couldn't live without it.
So if you couple that with your 16-foot, you get a lovely... sound that Mr. Hook never envisioned. Sure. So there it is. We start by taking off the front panel of the organ, which lets us get underneath the chests, and we can see that this is all indeed a new organ with old pipes. There's new bracing and new floor frame. There's a relay, new winding, relative to the age of the pipes anyway. And new regulators. Those are electro-pneumatic chests. And crawling through, we see we have some chimes back here in the back. I don't think we showed off the chimes. We have some pedal chests here on the floor. I believe this is the string. And then behind we have the Borden. The Swell and choir boxes are above. But this ladder takes us up to the great pipes. There's where we came up. And the first chest we see is actually the Rohr flute. Continuing on, the rest of the great chest is in front of us. And now we're looking down at the great pipes. In the rear of the facade, which does have speaking pipes, and then there is the Swell division, choir on this side. To access the Swell chamber, it requires going outside and setting up a ladder. There's an exterior door that has to be opened first, and then an interior door, and then you move the ladder so that you can get into the very narrow opening. But once we get in, we are in the Swell chamber. We have flute pipes towards the front of the chamber. A harmonic flute and stop flute are at the back, and then coming over, we have the reeds at the back of the chamber. That's our 16-foot Fato. And oddly enough, there's some space back here. We have the offset for the 8-foot open diapason, and there's just a lot of extra floor space. This chamber extends back a bit. I'm not sure why. Now, getting into the choir is the same process. We have to go outside and open a door and go up a ladder, and then we're here in the choir, which is a little more crowded chamber. It's not as deep as a swell. It doesn't have that extra space. We have our Geigen there at the back. The Dulciano and the Marus. Now we're outside the case, underneath the choir box on the floor here. Looking up, we can see how the swell box extends back a little farther than the choir. Of course, all of this was built in the 1960s and doesn't have much to do with the original hook.
My name is Adam Schwiniger, and I'm the unofficial caretaker of the organ. I've actually started here about 2018 with a stained glass restoration program. Learned how to do stained glass, and there just so happened to be an organ. And I always kind of had an interest in it, and so I kind of self-taught myself a little bit and learned about it as much as I could. And now I'm trying to show awareness about it to anyone else that comes in the door. This was originally St. Mary's Catholic Church. It opened in 1867 and then was decommissioned by the Archdiocese of Dubuque in 2010. It was going to be demolished essentially. Luckily, a lot of people in the community came together, business owners and nonprofits and everything came together and decided to save the building and formed the Friends of St. Mary's, and then later on became Steeple Square, which by doing that, we were able to save the church building, and then the old school was converted into apartments. So the entire event center space, the former church, has been renovated or restored to be used as an event center space, and then also the lower level has like an industrial kitchen, and we partner with nonprofits in Dubuque and bring as much of the community into the space as possible. As far as the decoration of the building goes, it looks much the same as it did when the church closed, but it has gone through some renovations over the years as far as the interior goes. One example of it is the redecoration. This is some original stenciling that was uncovered during some of the phase of basically finding out what the original decoration was. You'll see that amongst, if you walk around the space. There's also an area where the text of German was covered up with English on some of the Stations of the Cross, so that's also something. What you see as far as the decoration in here was done around 1912, I believe, and then it was refreshed again in the 1950s, and then there was a fire in the mid-70s, and so it had been kind of touched up again since then. So the front of the church in the 1912, 1910s renovation, they added on the two side chapels, which now act as bathrooms for us. So the balcony was extended at some point. Judging by the facade work on the front, we believe it was during the 1910s renovation. So it was extended at some point. The casework for the organ, we believe could be original, but it does kind of lend itself to being a part of that 1910s renovation. So
that is the whole instrument. Like I said, this organ, like many instruments of this age, has seen fire. It's seen abandonment at a point in its life. Tonal changes to try to keep up with the times, but we are really fortunate that the pipework survives.
Yeah.
Most all of it in its original form. I think we're only missing the old gamba, and it might be somewhere in some closet in this church, for all I know, or in the attic.
And we're lucky that the building is in the care of people that care about the building. They do care about the organ. I mean, it's air conditioned in here today, and hopefully maybe we'll see some.
There's even a bar downstairs.
There is a bar, because this is an event center and a community center now. And the other parts of the church, the school and the old convent, have been turned into a shelter and apartments. So it's a church that still sees continued life, which is fantastic to see when so many are being closed and forgotten about. This organ doesn't really get used a lot for weddings, we hear when there's some of those. So they would love to have some concerts and events here. So if you're an organist near Dubuque and would love to come play this organ, there's information to contact Steeple Square down in the description. They would love to have some concerts and events and other things.
Or if you're just passing through town and want to
come hear a hook organ, so look down there to find that. Down there you can also find a link to our website where you can become a sponsor of the Organ Media Foundation and help us get out and find organs like these and make videos like these with great people like Andrew. We depend on our sponsors to make these videos, so thank you to all of you who helped us get to Dubuque. We still have more videos coming out from Dubuque, so you want to make sure you're subscribed to our channel and click the bell for notifications so you know when those videos come out. Until then, you can always find streaming classical organ music on our 3 stations, organlive.com, Positively Baroque, and The Organ Experience. Well, thank you again, Andrew. I hope we hear great news about this organ in the future and its continued development. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I'm Brent Johnson.
I'm Andrew Schaeffer.
We'll talk to you next time.